So now I'm going to go ahead and begin the assault on the town proper. First stage of that operation will be clearing the east yard here on the left flank. Advancing the 2 platoons online. As soon as they crest over that ridge line, they're just going to begin to suppress all those buildings with high explosive fires. The game so I can issue some suppression orders. This is the targeting PET. Selecting basically every building in this little village here. Select the first. I select the most dangerous buildings first, the ones that are closest, or the ones that have easiest angle of fire. The ones in the rear will be attended to, just not immediately. You see the mortars are firing missiles into the buildings. At the very least, this effect should suppress the enemy and allow me to assault him. At most, it will destroy the enemy. The autocannons on these mortars are amazingly effective, so I'm probably shredding into whoever's in those buildings right now. See there in the distance the fire mission that I called in previously to suppress those unknown infantry contacts just finished. So now that the first row of buildings are suppressed, I can advance the 2 platoons online a little bit closer. The closer, the better. In some regards, because your infantry dismounts will preserve some stamina. They won't have to run so far. Of course, the disadvantage is that if there are enemy still surviving after the initial suppression, they can engage you with RPGs or hand grenades if you get really close. Of course, you don't want to have that happen. So now I'm issuing the assault. So the overwatching tank just spotted an RPG team maneuvering in the town. I call in an Apache to interdict enemy infantry in that area while the overwatching elements pin down and fix the enemy. And that's really the importance of Overwatch, is that the enemy can't cut off your attacking forces, or they can't interdict your attacking forces from some flank. Of course, the enemy in this particular mission, and in this circumstance, are not a great threat. You know, they don't really have any heavy maneuver forces, but they could still set up ambushes if I didn't have any units overwatching the general area. So, platoon, we're not dismounting the other platoon. Their main limit of advance is going to be the right side of the compound. Meanwhile, the other platoon has the left side. So what's going on here is that enemy observers have spotted in the ridge line where I approached from, and they're trying to knock out the recon platoon that is there. So I tell them to reverse into cover. I don't bother to move the tank because the tank wouldn't get knocked out even by a direct hit from the mortar. Just maneuvering mortars here so that I can hit the buildings, second row of buildings. Sure, but it'd be 20 or 30 rounds in each building. Again, every time you move a vehicle forward, you want to use pounds. You never want to move them forward all at the same time.
At attack position,
so I'm bounding this martyr up while his wingman is covering him. This greatly improves survivability. So I'm moving the mortars up on line because I couldn't hit the rear buildings from the previous position. Well, in the distance there, you can see the Apache vehicles in the context. One thing I have found about the mortar is that although it does fire at extremely high rates, it's not as accurate as, say, the Bradley drone cannon.
Ready to engage.
I mean, the same can be said about the German general-purpose machine gun. The M3 is not as accurate as the 240, but it does put out much more fire. Honestly, German, autocannon, the German general-purpose machine gun, they're, at least in my opinion, they're superior. But they do create tricky sort of circumstances where you can't move your forces too close to the effect that they're having. Otherwise, you might have a blue blue. What I'm doing now is I'm just clearing all the buildings in the compounds. Once all these buildings are secure, I can finally assault the main objective. Now here on the right flank, we're beginning our assaults. Same thing, suppression of enemy defenses, followed by a dismounted attack. what happened here is I heard an explosion on the right flank, and what it probably was enemy foot mobiles firing an RPG at my approaching APCs. So I respond with extreme force, and I just suppress the entire. Basically, every building here is immediately attacked with HE. And I also intended to do that anyway, because I wanted to create a breach point to enter into the compound here. If you notice, there's no doors on the face of the buildings that are facing towards me. And if I were to go around the buildings and to enter them, I'd probably walk into a kill zone. So I don't have any engineers, or pioneers rather. So my only option is to blow a hole with the heavy weapons that I have, which is what the martyrs did. They accomplished that. Right now I'm just continuing to suppress all these buildings here, especially the two-story building. That would be an excellent position. I did suppress that before when I first entered into the AO, but, you know, the more the merrier. I have no real shortage of HE ammunition, so there's no reason not to suppress these buildings again. I'd rather, you know, expend 20 to 30 HE rounds than lose 2 to 3 soldiers. So I notice here that the martyr on the far right side of the line actually has an exceptionally expansive field of fire and can basically isolate the entire right firing arc. Accordingly, I'm going to leave him there in Overwatch.
Stand by for gas request.
I also notice now that when I started to suppress those buildings, there's some sort of infantry contacts. So I'm going to call in the Apache to light up those buildings. And what the diamond with the red question mark means is essentially that your friendly forces saw something there, but they're not sure what it is. So it's a sort of an incomplete contact report. But there are some contextual clues. Like, for instance, if you see a red diamond inside a building, then obviously it's infantry, because, you know, tanks usually don't roll around inside buildings. Moving up the tank to sort of probe any other forces that might be in the compound that survived my preparatory suppression. So I'm advancing the platoon online.
Roger, en route to attack position.
One of the sections is going to go and bound towards that breach in the compound. The other section is going to form up on the right of them. The command element is being dismounted just to provide general overwatch from the grounds. And as I said before, I'm leaving that martyr on the far right of the line in position to tie down those buildings that the martyr has eyes on. This way the enemy can't escape. So, what I do here
Break! Abort!
is I'm going to wave off the Apache. And the reason for that is that the Apache, the effect of the Apache is danger close to my friendlies. And a blue-on-blue event is likely at those ranges. So, instead of using the Apache, I'm going to use the mortars. Mortars are much more forgiving than the autocannon of an Apache. So, I'm going to just demolish the two buildings where I saw the contacts. And I know that the contacts are still in those buildings because the mortar has line of sight on that area. So, they're basically just hiding in the buildings. I'm just going to call in some precision fire and destroy both of the buildings. And the enemy can't do anything about it. They can try to run out and they'll be gunned down, or they can hide there and just hope for the best, I guess. So I'm taking a small arms fire from the compound now. And not really sure where it could be from because I suppressed almost all of these buildings. There is one building that I wasn't able to suppress, which is one of the reasons why I picked up the tanks that I'm firing on now. I also suspect that it might be coming from that two-story building. So that's the only building that really has line of sight on my approaching forces. So what happened there is the tank is out of heat rounds, and he fired a Sabo round, and it went right through the building. Sabo rounds are extremely ineffective against infantry, mainly because they don't fragment unless they hit into rolled armor, heavy armors. So it will just pass right through a building and won't actually explode or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and tell the tank to cease fire.
Achtung, Aufschlag, kommen! Aufschlag, Ende! Achtung, Aufschlag, kommen! Aufschlag, Ende!
The spotting rounds from the mortars are coming in now.
Abgefeuert, kommen!
It's only going to be a matter of time before effective fires are put onto those buildings. Over here, this compound is almost entirely secure. There's a few more buildings that I'm going to check before I remount the platoons, and then we head towards the main objective. So far I've only encountered one ATGM. Well, it's not even an ATGM, it's just a recoilless gun. I encountered the SPG-9. I suspect that there were other ATGMs in this area of operations and that I destroyed them during my preparatory bombardment of the town. It said in the briefing that they did have ATGMs, and that's why I'm taking such a slow and deliberate pace here. It's the same thing as the first mission. If I roll into a fire zone where they have an ATGM sighted, I'm going to lose vehicles and entire APCs. So we see here, I killed the RPG team that was in there. I just found the bodies. notice here that the assault order that I gave that section was turned into a move order. The reason for that is that they're exhausted. I'm actually a little surprised that they were so exhausted. I mean, it was only about, I'd say, 300 meter bounds, which is, you know, it's not too far. It's probably the Panzerfaust. Probably weighs a lot, although I don't think the Panzerfaust weighs that much. It doesn't weigh as much as, say, a SMAW or a Carl Gustav. So this compound is now secure. We can remount the platoons and prepare to finally assault the main objective. Also, I noticed right about now that I'm really running out of time. And what that is going to result in is a very quick-paced and sort of reckless assault on the main objective. So I was trying to crush the enemy before they could, before the mission ended. So far, I'm pretty happy with my performance. I haven't lost anyone, and also I'm pretty sure that I knocked out the enemy ETGMs just on good intuition of where they could possibly be. So now it's time to move up these two recon platoons that I had moved into cover when they were getting fired at my mortars. And the Panzer Grenadiers here are almost done loading up into the vehicles. Right now I'm just checking the ordnance levels. So what I was going to do here is I was going to call in a preparatory attack on a building that I suspected might have enemy in it. But then I noticed that the ordnance levels on the aircraft were pretty low, and that I'd probably only have one JDAM to use. Accordingly, I'm going to keep that fire in reserve and not risk blowing up the building for no reason. So we have another small arms eruption here on the right flank. I'm unsure where it's coming from. I suspect it's probably in the second chain of buildings that I haven't been able to suppress with the mortars yet. And unfortunately, there's no real good way for me to move up and suppress them with my vehicles. So what I try to do here is I try to run over the wall leading to this little farmer's field, and then I forgot that you can't do that in the shock force. So the tank tries to go around it, which I didn't want to happen, so I have to sort of like a little traffic jam. I'm trying to speed this up because I'm running out of time in the operation. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to approach the town through these orchards. The main reason why is because I lost a vehicle in the last mission by 90 that was put on the road. So I suspect that, well, I'm wary about going on roads. I'm trying to avoid going on roads. I know that there's an enemy squad somewhere on the right flank. I just haven't been able to find them yet. So what happens here is I'm trying to move out the battalion online, and for whatever reason they're not really obeying my orders. I think it's because there was a passable ditch between them and the town. But I was too lazy to find where the ditch was, so I just sort of sent them in and a little traffic jam, but whatever. So now that the second grouping of buildings is secure on the right flank, I can start to move up the vehicles a little bit. So at this point, I'm really feeling the time crunch. Really trying to get in there quick and just assault the town as quickly as possible. So this is what I'm talking about with the impassable ditch. For whatever reason, they don't want to go straight across this field, and it didn't occur to me to check the terrain by zooming in and making sure that the contours were agreeable and whatnot. I'm just trying to rush over there as quickly as possible. Now, this would be really bad if the enemy had ATGMs. Having like a jam up like this, like a traffic jam, where your formations are becoming mixed and you have all these elements with their rear and side exposed. That is an ideal time for an ambush. Luckily, the enemy didn't have anything to shoot at me, but if they did, it would have been the time to fire. Again, I'm explicitly attempting to avoid the road. Sort of see here the inaccuracy of the mortar autocannon. I would say at least half of the burst is hitting the ground before it hits the new target. At least I'm finally getting my elements into a proper formation. With that said, and with the suppressive fire is beginning, I'm going to go ahead and dismount these platoons and get them into the town. We're here on the left flank. On the left side of the line, we took a RPG. Didn't hit any vehicles, but it landed approximately 300 meters away from the mortars. Now maneuvering these APCs so that they can fire on the buildings far to the rear of the right flank. There are some buildings there that could have enemy in them, and speaking of the devil, I'm taking small arms fire from that area. Seems like my lead section has come under small arms fire. I don't know where it's from yet, but the overwatching section is firing at a target that's about 300 meters away, far to the rear. So I'm going to go ahead and call in a laser-guided bomb on it.
Stand by for catch request. Roger, en route to IP.
And I'm also going to fix the target there until the aircraft gets there with the mortar fire. So with the enemy suppressed, I can bound my infantry teams towards them. I'm not going to get too close because I don't want any friendly fire incidents with the aircraft that's coming in. Meanwhile, on the left, my dismounts are pushing into the town. So far, there hasn't been any response by the enemy. They're probably huddled around in the urban centers, from pointing the center there. So what I was going to do here is I was going to dismount the infantry outside of the town, but then I realized that it's all uphill and my infantry would be skylining and they'd probably be knocked out. So I take a risk and I'm going to roll my mortars up, and then I'm going to suppress the buildings and then pop smoke and then dismount the infantry. The smoke screen will give my infantry some cover, then I'll reverse the mortars. So as I moved the first mortar up, I took an RPG. Missed the mortar just barely, but there's definitely enemy ahead. Often using the vehicles as a smoke screen is much quicker than calling in a fire mission to do so. Side of the city, the first dismounts have made it to the buildings, and they're now entering the city.
in the path. Roger, cleared hot.
So when I was trying to move my mortars up to suppress those buildings, I took one of my mortars was hit by an RPG. So I immediately reversed the other mortar and egressed with fire onto the building. And I locate the RPG team. Funny thing is, I was just about to suppress that building.
Feueranforderungen kommen!
I was moments away from firing Snakey into that building and the RPG. Luckily, the entire crew of the agency survived and they're unwounded. They immediately returned fire on the RPG team. Meanwhile, other enemy infantry contacts in front of my dismounts opened fire. Unfortunately, the mortar doesn't have an aim point and can't affect fire onto the enemy. Meanwhile, the overwatching teams, sniper, the command element, and squad to the left offer some suppressive fires and allow bounding section as well as the vehicle crew to proceed to safety.
Achtung, Aufschlag, kommen! Aufschlag, Ende.
On the right side of the city, I haven't had much contact yet.
Abgefeuert, kommen! Abgefeuert, Ende. Achtung, Aufschlag, kommen!
So now I'm going to perform a danger close artillery fire mission onto a building that has an enemy team in it. The reason for this is I can't move the mortars up to support them without risking losing another. So you're going to rely on the accuracy and the skill of my forward observer and also the artillery systems. And I'm going to call the fire mission level the building about 75 meters away from
Wirkungsschießen, kommen!
my friendly dismount
Euer
section.
Auftrag beendet, Ende! Verstanden, Wirkungsschießen, Ende. Abgefeuert. Kommen. Abgefeuert. Ende.
As I draw nearer to the center of the city, there's more and more resistance. I suspect that there is at least a platoon of enemy in the buildings ahead. My priority now is to get some elements to Overwatch, and then begin clearing building by building.
Achtung, Aufschlag. Kommen. Aufschlag. Ende. Abgefeuert. Kommen.
Abgefeuert. Ende.
Achtung, Aufschlag. Kommen. Aufschlag. Ende. Wirkungsschießen. Kommen.
Spotting rounds on that fire mission is now coming in.
Verstanden. Wirkungsschießen. Ende.
Spot another RPG team in another building. Gonna call in a laser guided bomb on it.
Stand by for cash arrest.
Although that cast request is going to be danger close, it's less dangerous than using, say, a gun run by a helicopter. Because the laser guided bombs are they're pretty accurate. It's different when you designate an area for an attack, and you basically just let the Apache, engage all the contacts in the area, because then you can have blue on blue. Fortunately, before I can complete clearing the town, the mission ends.